The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had for the past 15 years. Jake Morrison stood on his porch, drinking coffee and watching the golden light spread across endless fields of corn and wheat. The air smelled of fresh earth and growing things. It was peaceful here, just the way he liked it. Jake was 45 years old and had been running this colony since the beginning. He came here with his wife Lisa when they were young and full of dreams. They wanted to build something good, something that would last. Now they had 50,000 people calling this place home. The colony stretched for miles in every direction. Small houses dotted the landscape between the farms. Children rode bikes down dirt roads while their parents worked in the fields. The town center had a school, a hospital, shops, and the administration building where Jake worked every day. Lisa walked out onto the porch carrying her own cup of coffee. She was a doctor and ran the medical center. Her brown hair was starting to show gray streaks, but her smile was still as bright as the day they met. "Another beautiful morning," she said, standing next to her husband. "Sure is," Jake replied. "Hard to believe we built all this from nothing. When they first arrived, New Haven was just rocks and dust. The soil was poor and nothing would grow. But humans were good at fixing problems. They brought in earth from other worlds, planted trees, and slowly turned the planet green. It took years of hard work, but they did it. Most people here were farmers, now." There was Sam Rodriguez, who knew everything about growing food. He could make crops grow in places where nothing should live. Tony Garcia ran the repair shop and could fix anything with wheels or engines. Claire Thompson used to fly ships in the military, but now she flew crop dusters to spray the fields. The colony had other people too. Frank Lopez worked in the mines, digging up metals they needed. Amy Chen was only 16, but she was better with computers than most adults. Pete Williams used to be a soldier, but now he taught at the school and helped Jake with planning. Danny Carter was the head of their small security team. He had 20 men and women who kept the peace and made sure everyone followed the rules. They were not really soldiers anymore, just neighbors helping neighbors. Their biggest problems were usually drunk farmers or arguments over water rights. The colony had basic defenses, but nothing serious. There were shields around the planet to stop rocks from space from hitting them. They had a few old weapons in storage, but most people had forgotten they were even there. Why would they need them? New Haven was far from the busy parts of space, where wars happened. Jake finished his coffee and kissed Lisa goodbye. He had work to do at the administration building. Today he needed to check the harvest reports and plan for winter storage. It was boring work, but important. These crops would feed people on 6 different worlds. As he walked through town, people waved and said hello. Mrs. Patterson was hanging laundry on her line. Her grandson Billy was playing with a toy spaceship in the yard. Mr. Johnson was loading his truck with vegetables to take to market. Everyone knew everyone in New Haven. That was how Jake liked it. In the big cities on other planets, people were strangers to each other. Here, if someone had trouble, their neighbors would help. If a family needed food, others would share. If a house needed fixing, people would come with tools. Jake reached his office and sat down at his desk. The building was simple but clean. His assistant, Maria Santos, brought him the daily reports. Crop yields were up this season. The weather had been perfect for growing. The new irrigation system Sam Rodriguez designed was working great. "Any messages from off-world?" Jake asked. "Just the usual trade requests," Maria said. 3 ships want to buy wheat, 2 want corn. The mining company on Kepler Station needs vegetables. Jake nodded. Business was good. New Haven made money by selling food to places that could not grow their own. It was honest work and it helped people eat. What more could anyone want? At lunch, Jake walked to the medical center to see Lisa. She was checking on old Mr. Henderson, who had hurt his back working in his garden. The hospital was small but had everything they needed. Lisa had trained 4 other doctors over the years, and they took good care of everyone. "How many patients today?" Jake asked. "Not many," Lisa said. "A few cuts and bruises. 1 broken arm from a kid who fell out of a tree. Nothing serious." That was normal for New Haven. People worked hard but were careful. They looked out for each other. Crime was almost zero. Violence was rare. Most problems could be solved by talking. In the afternoon, Jake visited the school. Pete Williams was teaching a history class about Earth, the world where humans came from long ago. The children listened with wide eyes as he told them about oceans and mountains and animals they had never seen. Amy Chen was in the computer lab, working on a project to improve the colony's communication system. She was brilliant for her age, and always thinking of ways to make things better. Jake was proud of all the young people growing up here. As evening came, Jake walked home through the quiet streets. Families were eating dinner together. Lights glowed in windows. Children played in yards while their parents watched from porches. This was what they had built. Not just houses and farms, but a community. A place where people could live good lives and raise their children in peace. New Haven was proof that humans could create something beautiful when they worked together. Jake did not know that far above them, hidden in the darkness of space, alien eyes were watching. Ships with weapons waited in the shadows, planning and preparing. The peaceful life of New Haven was about to change forever. But for now, Jake Morrison went to sleep next to his wife, content with another quiet day in the colony they had built with their own hands. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Jake Morrison was eating breakfast when the sky turned red. Lisa looked up from her medical journal as the windows shook. Outside, people were pointing at the heavens and shouting. Massive ships hung in the air above New Haven like metal mountains. They were dark and covered with strange symbols. Weapons glowed along their sides like angry eyes. Jake had never seen anything like them. "What are those?" Lisa whispered. Before Jake could answer, the ships began firing. Bright beams of energy shot down from space, hitting the communication tower first. The metal structure exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Then they hit the power station. The lights in every house went out at once. Jake grabbed his emergency radio. "This is Colony Administrator Morrison. All civilians report to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill." But the radio was dead. The communication system was gone. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. Someone was attacking New Haven and they had cut off all contact with the outside world. Lisa was already moving. As head of medical, she knew what to do. "I have to get to the hospital. People will be hurt. Be careful," Jake said, kissing her quickly. "I'll coordinate the evacuation." Outside, chaos ruled the streets. People were running in all directions. Some carried children. Others grabbed what belongings they could. Car engines roared as families tried to escape. But there was nowhere to go. The alien ships were landing now. They came down like giant metal, birds crushing buildings under their weight. Doors opened in their sides and creatures poured out. They were tall and covered in dark armor. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Danny Carter was already gathering his security team at the town hall. He had 20 people with him, all carrying the colony's old weapons. They looked scared but determined. "What do we know?" Jake asked, running up to them. "Nothing good," Danny replied. "These things are professionals. They took out our communications first, then our power. This is not random. They planned this." The aliens were moving through the town in organized groups. They shot at anyone who resisted. Their weapons made a terrible screaming sound when they fired. Whatever they hit simply disappeared in a burst of light. Sam Rodriguez appeared, driving his farm truck. The back was loaded with people from the outer settlements. "The shields around the planet are down," he shouted. "More ships are coming." Jake felt sick. The planetary shields were their only real defense. Without them, New Haven was completely helpless. But he had to stay calm. People were counting on him. "Everyone to the emergency shelters," he ordered. "Take only what you need. Move fast." The emergency shelters were underground bunkers built for asteroid strikes. They were not designed for war, but they were the safest places they had. Families hurried down the metal stairs, children crying and adults trying to stay brave. Amy Chen was at her computer in the town hall typing as fast as she could. "I'm trying to send a distress signal," she said. "Maybe someone will hear us." "Keep trying," Jake told her. "We need help." Outside, the battle was getting worse. The aliens had weapons that could punch through walls. They moved like hunters, searching every building. Some colonists tried to fight back with hunting rifles and farm tools, but their weapons were useless against alien armor. Pete Williams appeared with a group of older men. Jake recognized them as former soldiers who had retired to New Haven. They looked different now, harder and more focused. The peaceful farmers were gone, replaced by veterans who remembered war. "We need to organize," Pete said quietly. "These are Valdari shock troops. I fought them 20 years ago in the border wars. They are good, but they can be beaten." "How many people do we have who can fight?" Jake asked. Pete looked around the room. "More than you think. Half the people here used to be military. We came here to escape war, but we did not forget how to fight." That was news to Jake. He knew some colonists were veterans, but he had not realized how many. These quiet farmers and shopkeepers had once been soldiers, pilots, and Marines. Claire Thompson ran in, her pilot jacket torn and dirty. "They have air support. Fighter ships are strafing the outer farms. We need to get everyone inside." Frank Lopez was helping people into the shelters when an alien patrol found them. The creatures were 7 feet tall with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. They raised their weapons, but Frank was faster. He threw a mining charge at them and dove for cover. The explosion shook the ground. When the smoke cleared, the aliens were gone. Frank stood up, grinning despite the danger. "Still got it," he said. More colonists were fighting back now. Tony Garcia had turned his repair shop into a fortress, using heavy machinery as shields. Mrs. Patterson was helping children into the shelters, while her husband loaded an old hunting rifle. The aliens seemed surprised by the resistance. They had expected easy conquest, but the humans were not giving up. Every street became a battle. Every building was a fortress. Admiral Zexthor watched the battle from his command ship. The large alien had planned this attack for months. His intelligence said New Haven was a weak farming colony with no defenses. The conquest should have taken hours, but his troops were meeting unexpected resistance. These humans fought like trained soldiers. They used tactics that made no sense for farmers. They turned civilian equipment into weapons and civilian buildings into strongholds. "Status report," Zexthor demanded. "Sir, we have taken 60% of the colony, but resistance is stronger than expected. We are taking casualties." Casualties. The word tasted bitter in Zexthor's mouth. His Kethfer warriors were the best in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds. How were simple farmers hurting them? Back in the shelter, Jake was coordinating the defense with Pete Williams. They had communication with most of the underground bunkers now, using old mining radios that the aliens had not found. "We have about 800 people who can fight," Pete reported. "Most have military experience. We can hold them for a while, but we need a plan." Jake looked around at the faces in the shelter. These were his neighbors, his friends. They had come here for peace, but now they were at war. The question was simple. Would they surrender or fight? Lisa appeared with her medical team. She had been treating wounded civilians all morning. Her clothes were bloody, but her eyes were determined. "How many hurt?" Jake asked. "Too many," she said. "But we are saving everyone we can." Jake made his decision. These aliens had attacked his home, his people, his family. They had started this war, but New Haven would finish it. "We fight," he said simply. "We fight for our home." The real fight began on the 3rd day. Jake Morrison watched from the underground command center as his people turned their peaceful colony into a battlefield. What amazed him most was how quickly they adapted. Farmers became soldiers. Shopkeepers became engineers. Children became spies. Sam Rodriguez was the first to show what humans could do when they got creative. He took his crop harvester, a machine built to cut wheat, and turned it into a weapon of war. He welded metal plates around the cab and mounted 3 hunting rifles on the front. The giant machine could plow through alien patrols like they were wheat stalks. "It works better than I thought," Sam told Jake over the radio. "These aliens never fought farm equipment before." Tony Garcia was even more inventive. He took apart half the vehicles in his repair shop and built something new. It looked like a pickup truck, but it was covered in armor made from tractor parts. The back held a mining drill that could punch through alien battle suits. He called it the Digger. Not pretty, but it gets the job done, Tony said, grinning as he climbed into his creation. The Valdari were learning that humans were different from other species they had conquered. Most races either surrendered quickly or fought in predictable ways. Humans did neither. They improvised, they adapted, they turned everything into a weapon. Claire Thompson proved this when she took her crop duster and loaded it with explosive fertilizer. The small plane was built to spray chemicals on fields, but now it rained death on alien positions. She flew low and fast, dropping homemade bombs before disappearing behind hills. "Control, this is Dusty 1, she radioed. 3 alien squads. Eliminated, they never saw me coming. The aliens had advanced sensors that could track military aircraft, but they ignored the simple crop duster. By the time they realized their mistake, Claire was already gone. Frank Lopez turned the colony's mining operation into a trap factory. He had hundreds of explosive charges meant for breaking rocks. Now he buried them under roads and in buildings. When alien patrols walked over them, the ground exploded. Whole squads disappeared in clouds of dust and fire. But perhaps the most important breakthrough came from Amy Chen. The 16-year-old computer genius had been working day and night in the underground shelter, using equipment salvaged from damaged buildings. "I got into their network," she announced excitedly. "Their communication system is not encrypted. I can hear everything they say." Jake could hardly believe it. "You hacked alien technology?" "It was not that hard," Amy said with a shrug. "They use quantum frequencies, but the basic principles are the same. I just had to figure out their language patterns." Now the humans had a huge advantage. They knew where the aliens were going before they got there. Amy could warn defenders about incoming attacks and help coordinate ambushes. The information Amy gathered was shocking. The Valdari had expected to conquer New Haven in less than a day. They planned to capture the colony intact and use it as a supply base. Instead, they were stuck in a grinding war that was costing them soldiers and equipment. Pete Williams used this intelligence to plan better attacks. He organized the veterans into small teams that hit the aliens where they were weakest. They struck fast and disappeared before the enemy could respond. "We are not trying to win big battles," Pete explained to his team leaders. "We make them bleed every day. We make them afraid to leave their ships." The strategy worked. Valdari patrols became nervous and jumpy. They shot at shadows and wasted ammunition on false alarms. Their confidence was breaking down. Lisa Morrison was fighting her own battle in the medical center. She treated wounded defenders around the clock, but she also did something else. She studied captured alien equipment and even alien bodies when the fighting brought them. "Their armor has a weakness," she told Jake. "The joints are protected by a flexible material that our bullets can penetrate. Aim for the shoulders and hips." Her medical training helped her understand alien biology. She discovered that the Valdari had poor night vision and were sensitive to certain sounds. This information spread quickly through the resistance network. The aliens were getting frustrated. Admiral Zexthor had committed more troops to the battle, but the humans kept finding new ways to fight. Every day brought fresh surprises. One morning, a Valdari patrol entered what looked like an abandoned farm. The buildings seemed empty and safe. But Sam Rodriguez had filled the barn with methane gas from pig waste. When the aliens fired their energy weapons inside, the explosion could be heard for miles. Another patrol tried to cross a bridge over Miller's Creek. Frank Lopez had weakened the supports with precisely placed charges. The bridge collapsed when the heavy alien vehicles reached the middle, dumping a squad of Kethvar warriors into the rushing water below. The humans were learning from every encounter. Tony Garcia studied destroyed alien vehicles and figured out how their engines worked. He built devices that could jam their power systems. Claire Thompson analyzed their fighter tactics and found blind spots in their sensor coverage. Amy Chen expanded her electronic warfare capabilities. She learned to send false orders through the alien communication network. Valdari squads received commands to retreat when they should advance, or to attack empty buildings while real human positions went unmolested. Their whole system depends on rigid command structure, Amy explained. "If I can confuse their orders, they do not know what to do." The psychological effect was devastating. Valdari troops began to distrust their own commanders. They hesitated before following orders, wondering if the voice on the radio was really their admiral or a human teenager playing tricks. Meanwhile, the human defenders were growing stronger and more confident. They had started calling themselves the New Haven Militia, and they wore the name with pride. Farmers who had never held weapons were becoming effective soldiers. Teenagers were building bombs and hacking alien computers. Jake realized that something remarkable was happening. The attack on New Haven was supposed to destroy their community. Instead, it was making them stronger. People who had lived quiet, separate lives were now united in common purpose. Mrs. Patterson, the grandmother who used to worry about her garden, was now running ammunition to the front lines. Her grandson Billy, only 8 years old, was helping Amy monitor alien radio traffic. The whole colony had become a single fighting unit. Admiral Zexthor stared at the reports from his battlefield commanders. This simple farming colony was causing more casualties than the conquest of 3 military worlds. His reputation was being destroyed by humans who turned farm tools into weapons and children into intelligence operatives. "Sir," his aide reported, nervously, "the Kethvar request additional support. They say the humans fight unlike any enemy they have encountered." Zexthor growled in frustration. The humans were supposed to be weak. His intelligence had been completely wrong. These were not helpless farmers. They were something far more dangerous. They were humans defending their home. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Pete Williams called a meeting in the deepest underground shelter. The room was crowded with fighters, engineers, and planners. Their faces were dirty and tired, but their eyes burned with determination. "It is time to stop running," Pete announced. "Tomorrow we take our colony back." Jake Morrison looked around the room. These people had changed so much since the attack started. Sam Rodriguez still had dirt under his fingernails, but now he also had scars from building war machines. Claire Thompson wore her old pilot jacket, but it was patched with alien armor, pieces. Amy Chen was only 16, but she commanded the Electronic Warfare Division like a veteran. The plan Pete outlined was bold and dangerous. Instead of hiding and striking from shadows, they would attack the main Valdari base. It was built in the center of town where the old school used to be. Hundreds of alien troops were stationed there, along with their heaviest weapons. "They think we are beaten," Pete explained. "Their patrols are getting lazy. Their guards are tired. They do not expect a real attack." Amy Chen had been monitoring alien communications for weeks. She knew their schedules, their guard rotations, and their weak points. The attack would happen at dawn when most of the night shift was tired and the day shift had not fully awakened. "I can cut their communications for exactly 17 minutes, Amy reported. "After that, they will find my virus and kick me out of their system." 17 minutes. That was how long they had to win or lose everything. Tony Garcia had been busy too. His workshop had produced a dozen armored vehicles using parts from tractors, mining equipment, and captured alien technology. They looked strange, like metal monsters cobbled together from spare parts, but they worked. "The digger can punch through their outer wall," Tony said, patting his favorite creation. "Sam's harvester can clear the courtyard. The rest can provide cover fire." Frank Lopez had prepared the biggest surprise. For 3 weeks he had been secretly digging tunnels under the alien base. Working only at night and moving dirt grain by grain, he had hollowed out a space directly beneath their ammunition storage. "I have enough explosives down there to level half the town," Frank said quietly. "When I push the button, their whole base will shake apart." Lisa Morrison had her own role in the attack. Her medical team would be ready to treat wounded fighters, but she had also prepared something special. She had been studying alien biology and had developed a gas that would make the Valdari sick without killing them. It was not lethal, but it would make them too weak to fight. The attack began exactly at sunrise. Amy Chen sat in her hidden bunker, fingers flying over her keyboard. She sent false orders through the alien network, telling guard units to report to the wrong positions. She activated every electronic device in the base, creating chaos and confusion. Lights flashed, alarms blared, and doors locked and unlocked. Randomly. "Communications are down," she reported over the radio. "You have 17 minutes starting now." Sam Rodriguez drove his converted harvester straight at the main gate. The huge machine smashed through metal barriers like they were made of paper. Behind him came Tony Garcia in the digger, its drill spinning and sparks flying. The Valdari guards were completely surprised. Half of them were in the wrong positions because of Amy's false orders. The others were stumbling around, trying to figure out why their equipment was malfunctioning. Pete Williams led his assault teams through the breach. These were the veterans, men and women who had fought in real wars before retiring to New Haven. They moved like professionals, covering each other and advancing with precision. Claire Thompson dove her crop duster low over the base, dropping Lisa's knockout gas. The chemical cloud spread quickly in the morning breeze. Alien soldiers began coughing and falling to their knees, too sick to aim their weapons properly. The fighting was fierce but brief. The Valdari were good soldiers, but they had been caught completely off guard. Their communications were down. Their equipment was malfunctioning and half their troops were too sick to fight. Admiral Zexthor watched in horror from his command ship as his main base was overrun by human farmers driving converted tractors. This was impossible. These were not soldiers. They were supposed to be helpless civilians. "Send reinforcements," he ordered desperately, but Frank Lopez had been waiting for this moment. As Valdari aircraft lifted off from the landing pads, he pressed a button. The explosives he had planted over 3 weeks erupted like an underground volcano. The alien base jumped 3 feet in the air and came down in pieces. Buildings collapsed, vehicles flipped over, and the landing pads cracked in half. The reinforcement ships crashed before they could even leave the ground. In the chaos, Pete Williams and his teams captured the alien command center. They found computers full of intelligence about Valdari military plans, lists of their ships and weapons, and most importantly, the location of Admiral Zexithor's flagship. Amy Chen, monitoring from her bunker, had regained access to the alien network. But this time she was not just listening. She was inside their main computer systems, copying everything and planting viruses that would spread to other Valdari ships. "I have their fleet positions," she reported excitedly, "and I am downloading their tactical database. We will know everything about how they fight." The battle for the base was over in less than an hour. The surviving Valdari troops surrendered or fled back to their ships. The humans had captured enough weapons and equipment to arm every person in the colony. But more importantly, they had captured something else: respect. The news spread quickly through the Valdari fleet. These humans had not just defended themselves. They had counterattacked and won. They had used farm equipment to destroy a military base. They had turned children into hackers and grandmothers into soldiers. Admiral Zexthor realized he was facing a new kind of enemy. The humans did not fight like any species he had encountered. They adapted too quickly. They learned too fast. They turned everything into a weapon. Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of the alien base, surrounded by his people. They were cheering and embracing, celebrating their impossible victory. But Jake knew this was not over. The Valdari still had ships in orbit and troops on the ground. However, something had changed. His people were no longer just defending their homes. They were taking the fight to the enemy. They had discovered something important about themselves. When humans were pushed too far, they pushed back twice as hard. Tony Garcia was already planning improvements to his war machines. Sam Rodriguez was designing better weapons. Amy Chen was preparing new electronic attacks. Frank Lopez was looking for more places to plant explosives. The quiet farmers of New Haven were gone forever. In their place stood something the galaxy had never seen before: humans who had been forced to fight for everything they loved and who had discovered they were very good at it. Admiral Zexthor stared down at the burning remains of his base and realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had not attacked a colony of helpless farmers. He had awakened something much more dangerous. Admiral Zexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his remaining ships prepare to retreat. In 4 weeks of fighting, he had lost 60% of his invasion force to human farmers. His military career was over. Worse, his entire empire would soon know about this defeat. The final battle had lasted only 3 hours. After capturing the main base, the humans had not stopped. They used captured alien weapons and vehicles to hunt down the remaining Valdari troops. It was not a retreat anymore. It was a rout. Pete Williams had led the final assault on the alien supply depot. His team moved like ghosts through the wreckage of the town, using every trick they had learned in 4 weeks of fighting. They captured enough equipment to start their own army. Sam Rodriguez had turned his harvester into a mobile command center, coordinating attacks across the colony. Tony Garcia's war machines prowled the streets, hunting alien stragglers. Claire, Thompson's crop dusters ruled the skies, dropping supplies to human fighters and bombs on alien positions. But it was Amy Chen who delivered the final blow. From her underground bunker, she had penetrated deep into the Valdari military network. She copied their fleet movements, their supply schedules, and their tactical plans. Then she sent it all to every human colony in known space. "The information is spreading," Amy reported to Jake Morrison. "Every human world will know how to fight these aliens." Jake stood in what used to be the town square, now a crater surrounded by wrecked alien vehicles. His people were cleaning up, treating the wounded, and beginning to rebuild. But they were different now. The peaceful farmers were gone forever. Lisa Morrison worked in her field hospital, treating both human and alien wounded. She had insisted on caring for captured Valdari soldiers, despite everything they had done. It was the right thing to do, she said. Humans were better than their enemies. "How many did we lose?" Jake asked quietly. 237, Lisa replied, her voice heavy with grief. "Too many, but far fewer than it could have been." Jake nodded. Every death hurt, but they had saved their colony. More than that, they had shown the galaxy what humans could do when they were pushed too far. Admiral Zex Thor's retreat was interrupted by an urgent message from the Valdari High Command. News of the defeat had already reached the capital. The Empire was in shock. How had a single human colony destroyed an entire invasion fleet? The Admiral knew he would face a military tribunal when he returned home. His career was finished, but that was not what worried him most. He was worried about what would happen when other alien races learned about this battle. For generations, the Valdari Empire had been the dominant military power in their sector of space. Other species feared them. Now they would see that the mighty Valdari could be beaten by human farmers with improvised weapons. Jake Morrison stood before a camera in the ruins of the administration building. Amy Chen had rigged a communication system that could broadcast to the entire galaxy. The message Jake was about to send would change everything. "My name is Jake Morrison," he began, speaking calmly to the camera. "I am the administrator of New Haven Colony. 4 weeks ago, the Valdari Empire attacked our peaceful community without warning or provocation." Behind him, the smoking ruins of the town told the story better than words. Destroyed alien vehicles littered the streets. Human-built war machines stood guard at every corner. The message was clear. This was what happened when you attacked humans. "We are farmers," Jake continued. "We grow food and raise our children and try to live in peace. We never wanted to fight anyone. But when our homes were threatened, we defended them. When our families were attacked, we fought back." The broadcast was being received on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Alien leaders watched in fascination and growing concern. These humans looked ordinary, even weak. But they had defeated the Valdari Empire. "We ask only for peace," Jake said. "We will trade with anyone who comes in friendship. We will help those who need assistance. But we will never again allow anyone to attack our communities without consequences." The camera panned across the colony, showing the damage and the rebuilding. Human children played in the rubble while their parents worked to repair their homes. They looked like any other colonial family, except for the captured alien weapons they carried and the homemade armor plating on their vehicles. Amy Chen had programmed the message to repeat automatically and spread through every communication network in known space. Within hours, it would reach every inhabited world in the galaxy. The response was immediate and dramatic. On the Valdari homeworld, massive protests erupted as citizens demanded to know how their military had been defeated by farmers. The Emperor was forced to issue a public apology and recall all military forces from human space. Other alien empires watched nervously as the news spread. If the humans could defeat the Valdari, what else were they capable of? Several species that had been planning attacks on human colonies quietly canceled their invasion plans. 3 days after the broadcast, a new fleet appeared in orbit around New Haven, but these were not enemy ships. They flew the flag of the Human Colonial Defense Force led by Admiral Kate Sullivan. Jake Morrison met the Admiral at the makeshift landing pad where alien fighters had once touched down. Admiral Sullivan was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had come to see for herself what had happened on New Haven. "Administrator Morrison," she said formally, "I bring greetings from Earth and the Colonial Council. Your victory here has changed everything." "We just defended our home," Jake replied. "Any human community would have done the same." Admiral Sullivan smiled. "That is exactly what makes it so impressive, and so terrifying to our enemies." The Admiral had brought supplies, medical aid, and construction equipment to help rebuild New Haven. But more importantly, she had brought recognition. The Colonial Council was officially declaring New Haven a hero colony, a symbol of human determination and courage. Over the following weeks, New Haven was rebuilt stronger than before. The new buildings were designed with defense in mind. The farms were equipped with hidden weapons. The children learned both reading and military tactics in school. Sam Rodriguez opened a factory to build his converted farm equipment for other colonies. Tony Garcia started a company designing armored vehicles. Amy Chen became the head of a new electronic warfare division. Claire Thompson trained pilots in unconventional combat tactics. Pete Williams established a military academy where veterans could teach colonists how to defend themselves. Frank Lopez created a network of engineers who specialized in improvised weapons and fortifications. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not the weak, scattered species they appeared to be. When threatened, they could turn farmers into soldiers, children into spies, and farm tools into weapons of war. New Haven became a pilgrimage site for humans throughout the galaxy. They came to see where ordinary people had achieved the impossible. They came to learn how to defend their own communities. They came to understand what it meant to be human. Jake Morrison often stood on his porch in the evening, watching the sunset over the rebuilt colony. Lisa would join him with their coffee just like in the old days. But everything was different now. The galaxy knew about New Haven. They knew about the farmers who had defeated an empire. They knew that attacking humans was the most dangerous mistake any species could make. Children played in the streets, but they also practiced emergency drills. Farmers tended their crops, but they also maintained their weapons. The colony was peaceful, but it was ready for war. Jake Morrison smiled as he watched his people. They had built something beautiful here. They had proven that humans could create communities worth fighting for, and that they would never stop fighting to protect them. The galaxy's deadliest mistake had been attacking a human colony. They would never make that mistake again.